Good evening, everyone. It's Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence. Thanks, you guys, so much for popping on tonight and being a part of our broadcast this evening. Before we go any further, and I introduce you guys Greg from NYPrepper Channel, make sure that you guys can hear me real good before we take this in. And let's see here. Make sure you guys can hear me. I'm going to bring NYPrepper in here in just a second because he is ready to go. And just need someone to confirm that you guys can hear me real good in the chat room there. I'm showing that I'm coming in loud and clear, but that doesn't usually necessarily mean that you guys can hear me on the channel. Thank you, Lakes, BC Lakes, 10,000 Lakes, BC. Thank you, our moderators. Thank you so much for letting me know that. We've got Kathleen Vegalio joining us as well. We've got Joanna Lynn, Brian Knight, Kathleen Soysher, Connie Davidson, and a bunch of you guys. Philip, Texas Girl, Connie Gage, Radio Face Voiceovers with us, Kimberly Rawdon with us tonight. So just a little quick roll call there. All right, thank you so much. And I'm going to bring Greg in real quick here. Let's see if we can add him into the right. There he is. And I think at this moment your mic should be on, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're coming in real soft.
Okay.
There you go.
Maybe I just got to get closer to the microphone.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Perfect. We got Beep Beep 80 or Beep Beep 58 from Oklahoma. All right. And Selena Williams, Mary McIntyre, Idaho Bones. So people are popping in, they're following. We got about 30 of you guys watching over on Rumble and a couple of you guys watching on X. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And so right now we've got Greg with us from NYPrepper, his channel. And so he's been following along with what's been going on, the latest updates these last 24 hours with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and some of our policies that we put into place. And so we're going to try to do the best we can tonight to give you an idea of what's going on. Looks like you got a fan. You got a fan over here, Greg.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't see the chat. Let me see.
It's her name's Elizabeth. She says, give me a call later.
What the hell? That's weird.
So anyway.
I don't know who that is. I don't even know who that is. That's the funny part.
But anyway, yeah, so we're going to kind of get into that this evening. And I think what we're going to do, because, I titled tonight's video here, and it's, if I could pull it up, let's see. Will Trump make it to the White House? All right, that's what I titled tonight. And no, I'm not talking about elections because thank God the elections are over. We're very excited about the election season being over. We're talking about, what are they going to do between now and January 20th? What are they going to do to try to create something that either Trump's going to have to really deal with, like World War III scenario that he may inherit, or are we going to go into a full-blown war scenario that may enact some congressional or some constitutional clauses that may keep Biden sitting in office beyond the 20th, January 20th, which in my personal opinion, I think that may be what they're trying to do. So before we kind of just dive in, Greg, just, what are your thoughts on some of this? Let's just kind of roll with the punches this evening.
Yeah, I think I haven't heard anything about the constitutional aspect of it, so maybe you can explain that more, but definitely World War III. Suddenly Biden approves the deep strikes on Russia, for Ukraine, so Ukraine can use ATACMS now. They just did a strike last night on Russia, 75 miles into Russia, which has been confirmed, as you probably know. And so now Russia is moving VIPs to Siberia this evening. There were 8 Russian VIP planes and doomsday planes going to Siberia just 3 hours ago, and the Russian spokesman Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, said that if Ukraine continues with the deep strikes, then there may be a nuclear response, meaning they would potentially nuke Ukraine. And Putin already revised the nuclear war doctrine, the nuclear weapons doctrine, how to use them and under what circumstances. Today, he officially signed off on that change that he was going to make. Like, he first mentioned it like 2 months ago, but they never actually ratified the change. And then this morning, after the news came out about the strike, Putin quickly ratified that change. So now Russia can basically use nuclear weapons against a non-nuclear country, according to their doctrine. So this is a very serious situation right now. This could be, the most serious situation of our lifetimes potentially. So
Yeah, I just have the article pulled up here of what you're talking about. So I'm going to show everybody real quick. It says Putin issues warning to United States with new nuclear doctrine. This is as of today. This is according to Reuters, which is from Russia. It says that Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday lowered the threshold for a nuclear strike in response to a barrage range of conventional attacks, and Moscow said that Ukraine had struck deep inside Russia with U.S.-made ATM missiles. Basically, these are ballistic missiles. So Putin approved the change after 2 days. U.S. officials and some sources familiar with the decision said on Sunday that U.S. President Joe Biden's administration allowed Ukraine to use U.S.-made weapons to strike deep into Russia. And so Russia had been warning the West for months that if Washington allowed the Ukraine to fire U.S. fire U.S., British, and French missiles deep into Russia, that Moscow would consider those NATO members to be directly involved in the war in Ukraine. And so it's the updated Russian nuclear doctrine establishing the framework for conditions under which Putin could order a strike from the world's biggest nuclear arsenal was approved by him on Tuesday, according to published degree. So, that's right there. That's straight from Reuters. That happened today. And the Biden administration, they said, hey, we're going to let you guys do what you want to do, basically, with the weapons we've given you. They've pretty much removed the restraints is what's happened. And so, within the days to come, in my personal opinion, and you may feel the same on your end, but they may start flying the planes. Those warplanes that we've been sitting over there for quite a while. They may start using other conventional potential payload missiles to go over into those areas. As of right now, from what I saw, some of those missiles we have, I think, can go as far as, and you correct me on this because you're a little bit more knowledgeable than I am. I think they can go as far as 150 miles into Russia, but I think the furthest one they had was 75 miles to Russia.
Yeah, like 200 miles. The
200 miles.
ATACMS, the ATACMS can go 200 miles, which is pretty far. That's almost touching Moscow, and then. They have different types of missiles too. That's the furthest one. They have some shorter range ones, like the one that they used last night might have been one of the shorter range ones. They're not necessarily maybe going to use their best, longest range missile first. Maybe this was like just the initial testing the waters with some of the closer range ones to see how Russia responds. So they maybe lobbed like a 75-mile range one, which is still pretty deep. That's far in, and seeing how Russia responds and whatnot. And then maybe they're going to, but yeah, you made a good point about the F-16s that, all the warplanes that they have a lot of missiles they can use with those. And I heard over the weekend, it was like right after Biden said that Ukraine could use the long range missiles. The French newspaper Le Figaro said that France and Britain subsequently also approved the use of Storm Shadows and Scalp missiles, which the Storm Shadows, I believe they're even further. I think they're like 300 miles. And those have a huge warhead. So, like the ATACMS missile, it doesn't have a massive warhead. It doesn't. You can't like level a whole house with it, for example. But like a Storm Shadow, that has a large warhead, so you can use that to take out hardened structures like bridges,
Mhm.
entire buildings. ATACMS missiles are mostly they were designed for taking out enemy tanks, enemy artillery pieces, enemy armored vehicles of different kinds, radar station, mobile radar stations, things that like that are a little smaller, but still, like in this case, they hit an ammo dump, and the ammo started to cook off, and everything just went kaboom. Russia said that they used like 6 missiles. The U.S. didn't say how many, but Russia said 6 were used. But what's interesting is the French newspaper reported that France and Britain allowed it, and then shortly after they retracted that
Mhm.
statement. And then I think French foreign minister came out and said, "Oh, we never approved it. It's still under discussion." Obviously, they didn't want to leak the information out, but it looks like France and Britain already approved it too. Um, so I don't know how Ukraine is going to do this. The question is Ukraine just going to do like little strikes here and there, as the opportunities present themselves, and kind of hit more like smaller scale targets, more tactical targets? Or is Ukraine just going to launch like one massive aerial attack, like a shock and awe attack on Russian forces with their jets, with their ATACMs, with everything they have in just one massive blow? And so I don't know that if they did that, I'm almost positive Putin would respond, in kind with potentially nuclear. But um, yeah, it's a crazy situation.
Yeah, it came out in the news earlier today too that when Zelensky originally launched those ballistic missiles over into Russia, he claimed that those missiles were from Germany at the beginning of this. Uh,
Really?
yeah, he came out that, and I forgot which it was one of the mainstream news agencies that put this out today. But he was claiming that they were not U.S. made missiles, but that they were from Germany. But then Russia was able to confirm that no, these were U.S. made missiles, and then the whole thing was scrubbed after that. But originally, when it started, he was trying to say that it was from Germany, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm kind of like you. I'm a little bit curious what the response of Ukraine is going to be, or what they're going to do going forward. And I'm also kind of curious what Putin's going to do because, the red line's been crossed. He's threatened, hey, for months, actually for longer than months. Really, he's been doing it for like
Yeah,
almost a couple of
years.
years now.
Yeah,
Saying, hey, if you use these weapons, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Well, Biden gives permission to use those weapons in less than 24 hours. They do it.
yep,
So they actually did it. So what does Putin do? Like, does he
right.
pretend like, well, Russia's fine. We shot 5 of the 6 down. If you do it again, we're really going to get you. Like, is he going to kind of play the elementary game on this, or, is he going to go after Europe? Is he going to, try to do something with the United States, or is he just not going to ignore the rhetoric altogether and just pound Ukraine, relentlessly, and I
Right.
think no matter what happens, in my personal opinion, I think Ukraine's going to get pounded quite
Yeah,
significantly, no matter what the outcome is in this
yeah,
particular scenario. Um, a couple
yeah.
things that have happened. Oh, go ahead.
He's definitely going to do something. The question is specifically what is he going to do? Yeah, and plus, Trump is coming in what, 2 months.
Hmm.
So if he's going to do something, he'll try to do it before Trump gets in. Because now it's the lame duck. So if he's going to nuke Ukraine or do some kind of big move, like a big escalation, it's better for him to do it now, than when Trump gets in, obviously.
Right.
So I don't think Putin's going to wait too long. But I guess you never know. But, another possibility, too, is that he could also just nuke his own territory in Kursk, where all the Ukrainians are, where Ukraine has taken over part of Russia now, and the Russian troops can't kick out the Ukrainians. I mean, he could nuke his own soil. You know, I don't know if you remember Prigozhin. He actually said that, like, he did an interview like 2 weeks or a week before his rebellion march, and the Russian person that was interviewing him asked him if he thought Putin would use nukes. And he said, I think Putin would nuke his own soil. That's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? He could do something like that, because then it kind of avoids escalation with NATO by nuking Russian territory, right? I mean, you can nuke your own territory. Nobody cares. At the
Right.
same time, it would send a message to Ukraine and NATO, we're nuking our territory this time, but next time we're going to nuke you. That's a possibility too. It's also interesting how initially on Sunday, they reported that Ukraine was only going to be able to use the missiles in the Kursk region. I don't know if you heard that or not.
Mm-hmm.
That they approved the long range missile use, but it was limited to Kursk. Well, the target they hit last night was in Bryansk, which is totally different oblast from Kursk. That's like
Yeah.
50 miles away. So that was obviously a lie. And so it seems like basically Ukraine probably has freedom to strike anywhere. The question is now, will Ukraine try to take the Crimean Bridge down? That's something that they've wanted to do for so long, especially after the cables were cut in the Baltic. They could retaliate like that. There's just so many possibilities. And obviously Ukraine is deliberating with, the Pentagon when they're selecting targets. I mean, you probably know, I'm sure you know, that, the Pentagon approves most of these targets that they're hitting in Russia, like the strike last night. I'm almost positive that the Pentagon was looped in on that strike, and they probably shared the information with America, and America said, okay, looks good, you can hit it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how it goes. What do you think in general?
Well, I think a few things. One is, and as you alluded to, we've got Trump coming into office, hopefully, uh, January 20th, and that was something that you and I had talked about the last time you were on. Was if Trump got elected in, which he did, then he's got to make it to January 20th. And we see some things coming down the line, and I know this is going to kind of like go down a rabbit trail for a second, but just hang in there with me because I will land this plane back to the subject that we're talking about. But we see some things that are coming down the line. It came out over the last 48 hours that as soon as Trump gets in office, there's going to be a national emergency amendment going out, and he's going to use the military to round up those that have come in through the southern border and try to bring them back out. We've seen that he's going to go after those that were a part of the Afghanistan pullout several years ago that cost the lives over 100 Americans that were left behind. Treason. He's issuing indictments of treason against those people. And it's even speculated that it may even go further than that when they declare this national emergency with the military, not just for the undocumented that have come in, but this could also be for several members of the leftist party under the guidelines of treason. We could be seeing that. And so there's a lot of people scared right now. There's a lot of people going underground. And I think that this was a Hail Mary that we saw. Now I'm landing the plane. But this was a Hail Mary out of the Biden administration that we saw to allow Ukraine, because Ukraine has been a proxy this entire time. We've been going through them to go after Russia for whatever reason. But this is what's happened is this was a Hail Mary. And he allowed Ukraine to use these weapons now. They actually did it. And so now, where do we go from here? And I think that if Putin doesn't do anything, I think there's a possibility, in my personal opinion, okay, that something may still happen, but it's going to be a false, what, okay,
Okay. Right.
okay. So we may see something, and it could come from anywhere. It could come from North Korea. It could come from our enemies in Iran. It could come from, the deep state that's not only here in the United States but in Israel too. We can see some stuff take place and see a localized, potential hypothetical nuclear event, in Borealis, for example, but it wasn't them. Okay, but they're going to make it look like it was to ignite this thing. Whatever, like you said, like we pointed out, whatever's going to take place is going to happen before January 20th, because as soon as the guard changes here in the U.S., they're not playing. Okay, things are going to change very radically here in the United States. They're going to change very radically across the globe. I mean, it's going to be a whiplash for the globe with what's coming out of the United States. And so this is kind of like the last decisions, the last moments they have to try to pull something together to potentially distract Trump when he's in office, give him so much that he has to deal with these other things he won't be able to do, or to create so much chaos that we go into a world war scenario where America is on lockdown and they can't do the inaugural process on the 20th.
Right. Yeah.
Because if
Definitely.
we're in a martial law situation here in the U.S. because we got things flying over us or the threat of it, there's not going to be an inauguration taking place on the 20th. And I do believe, and I didn't do any research on this, I didn't have time, but I do remember that if we go into a wartime period where the United States is at risk, they will not change presidencies until that risk has gone away.
Yep.
And then there is something in the Constitution considering this, or an amendment concerning this. And so this could be the play at hand as well. But then again,
Oh yeah.
who's going to run the country? Because Biden was missing from the G20 family photo that they took. I don't know if you saw that. They took a
I didn't
family
see
photo
that.
of the
No.
G20. He wasn't there because he was roaming around and couldn't find his place to the stage. So the world leaders took a photo without him. So it looks
I
like,
didn't see that.
it looks like we weren't even there, which technically I guess we really wasn't mentally there. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. And I think somebody here mentioned EMP in the chat room. There's that too. We could be looking at an EMP situation across the U.S. and in some of the major cities off of this. And so, it really all scenarios, man, are at play right now, and that's a scary thing to kind of bring forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Trump's got his hands full for sure, and that's the thing too. That I was telling my wife over the weekend. Trump had made a statement that as of now he can't wait till January 20th. He has to start acting as if he is president now. Okay, so that's what he's doing. So even though we see all this stuff in front of us, he's in the back channels. He's on the phone with Putin. Okay, he's on the
Yep.
phone with Zelensky. He's on the phone with everybody.
Netanyahu. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like in the United States, unofficially, right? We have two presidents right now.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
It is. Yeah.
So, unofficially, all right, because we know that really we don't, but unofficially we kind of do. We got two presidents and we got two governments that are activated right now, and so it's a really strange time across the United States. And I hate to say, but Russia's playing a big part in this. With what happens next. So you got anything you
Yeah.
want to add into that one?
No, I think you hit all the main points. I think the Hail Mary is just the perfect way to describe that, because I feel like it was too easy. The election, it was not just that Trump won, but Republicans won in many, many states, and it was like a sweep, all the swing states, and It just seemed a little too good to be true. I feel like the dues have not been paid yet for that red wave, and the Democrats are busy figuring out how they can make our lives miserable for winning fair and square.
Yeah, well, it's like the
So,
saying goes, it was too big to rig.
yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah, so that's kind of what happened there, and yeah, you're right. They're not just gonna like lay down and
Right,
and not do
right.
anything. I'm not buying the whole peaceful transition thing. We
No,
know that there's even in the United States alone, there's governors that are already bucking up and saying not going to happen in my state, right? We know that there's factions that are ready to do what they need to do on inauguration day, assuming that we even make it to that. But here's what I do want to point out, and here's some of the stuff that we do know is taking place, which kind of gives us a little bit of an insight on what we might be seeing coming into the future, near future, really. There was reports that came out today that there were some undersea cables being cut, and I'm gonna pull the other screen up here real quick so you guys can see this. Hold on, let me fix this. But there was we had some undersea cables between Germany and Finland that were severed, undersea cables between Lithuania and Sweden that were damaged. British Airways had a major IT outage and grounds flights and communications that were lost over Europe. We've got Sweden that's telling its citizens to prepare for war. 5 million households receive prepping pamphlets in Sweden.
yep.
We also had, and I saw you had talked about this on your channel a little while ago, but I forgot which country, but they're handing out metal containers for, well, I think, like 48-hour shelters. To
Oh,
be
that's
enforced.
Russia. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
Russia, yeah.
yeah. Russia's making fallout shelters from shipping containers. They're mass producing them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
So
there's that taking place. We've got something that, hold on, let me go to the next feed over here. This was kind of an interesting thing too. Many European nations are preparing for World War III involving Russia. I'll look at that here in just a second. Oh, Russia is deploying additional army forces on the Israeli border. Now, this is in reference to what took place in Syria and kind of the Syrian. They say it's part of the Syrian civil war taking place over there, but it's also in response to what some of the bombings that Israel has done in Syria against Iran. And so now they're showing up over there right now and bringing in forces to the Israeli border. And so I'm not too sure. It doesn't say how many there's sending, but it said that it had announced on Wednesday, which it's Wednesday over there, that it had deployed additional forces in the Syrian-controlled areas of the Golan Heights, where Israel had allegedly struck at an increased rate over the last several months. The forces from Russia's military police were tasked with de-escalating tensions in the Syrian provinces of, I'm not even going to try to pronounce these names, but they were being monitored for the long-standing ceasefire issued as part of the Syrian civil war. According to Russia, military posts belonging to the Syrian military are located below the Russian observatory posts set up to monitor possible provocations. And basically, those provocations are really just anything that's against their ally, Iran. So, we're definitely seeing what I would consider the art of war. We kind of saw this on a smaller scale right before Russia went into Ukraine several years ago, where we started seeing, issues with the internet over there, things going out, power grids going down, and the assembling of course, the troops on the borders. But now we're seeing this on a much larger scale. And of course, one thing we haven't mentioned at all tonight is the introduction of North Korea and their soldiers, which at the time when we discussed it, it was all just aerial footage, satellite footage that was showing that. But now we know for a fact that they are there. And they're helping, which allegedly is what the White House is stating led to the decision of Biden to make that order was because of North Korea's involvement. But what are your thoughts about Russia also deploying its forces over to Israel? What's your thought on that one?
They've been doing that for a while. The last year or so, they've been slowly moving forces to the border of the Golan Heights in Syria. Yeah, they just built like a new border outpost. And I think it's biblical, to be honest, because in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39, it talks about the Magog War, where Russia invades Israel and well, they try to invade Israel with an alliance of different Muslim countries. Iran is one of the big allies during that war. So, I mean, it's a sign of the times, that we're getting closer to the tribulation period, and everything is being set up for that invasion in the future. So we know that Putin doesn't like Netanyahu; they don't get along, So Russia supports Hezbollah. There was just a new report that came out from the Israeli Defense Force. They just posted a report saying that 60 to 70% of the weapons they found in southern Lebanon, like, weapons that were left over by Hezbollah, were like Russian weapons. 60 to 70% of their weapons are Russian. And they're not just like AKs or something. They said they were like high value precision weapons that they were getting. So
Modern weapons.
yeah, right. So it's not like, something that was passed on, from through other countries. They were directly obtaining them from Russia, basically. So that's just another sign that we're in the end times.
Yeah, I saw a report earlier today. I came across it, but even Iran has, been emboldened to make its threats about using nuclear weapons against the United States or against the NATO nations, I should say, along with Russia. And so, whether they do it or not, I don't know. I don't know what their actual standing is on if they would actually do it, but I don't think that they would maybe try to strike first without being emboldened by Russia first to do those things. But so that's also been taking place. It says many European nations are preparing for World War III involving Russia. Germany is ramping up its national security as fears loom that Vladimir Putin's bloody war in Ukraine may develop into a worldwide inferno. Recent weeks, North Korea has sent thousands of troops to support Mad Vad. On the Tuesday, embattled Kyiv unleashed its first long-range missiles into Russia. Fears of war spilling over national borders has now been sparked, with Germany taking after the Nordic countries and ramping up precautionary measures. So we see that even Germany now is beginning to do what they need to do to protect themselves over there in Europe. And so it really is a hot mess because everybody's staging right now. Europe's involved. You got the Middle East is getting roped into this thing. It's all tying together. You've got North Korea moving in as well. South Korea is starting to activate because now that North Korea is emboldened, they're starting to kind of activate, which is going to bring the Asian theater to life here pretty soon, and kind of embolden China to do whatever they need to do. And notice how things in China have been kind of quiet over the last couple of weeks, which is never good.
Yeah.
It's never good when things get quiet, especially with places like China. So, there's, a lot going on. So, the question is we've got some interesting days and weeks ahead. Will Vladimir Putin take the Israeli approach and wait a couple weeks before retaliating? Kind of the art of war, be suspenseful, or will he go right at it tonight? Because it's daytime over there. Will they do it now? We don't know. But what we do know is, as you already pointed out tonight, that we are living in the last days. These are end time events. The bear has been poked and the hook is in the jaw, and they are moving. They are on the move. They're being pulled into this thing. They're being pulled into the Israeli conflict. They're being pulled by the United States into areas that they really don't want to be in. And unfortunately, the Ukrainian people, those that just want to live their day-to-day lives, they're the ones that are going to pay a very, very heavy price, as Ukraine will probably be the main battlefield, along with Poland and those Nordic countries as well. So, what do you think will probably just your gut feeling out of this, because we really don't know, nobody knows, but what's your gut feeling that what do you expect to see as a highlight of news in the next day or two?
That's a good question. It's going to be interesting to see if Putin makes a statement about this strike. If he actually makes a statement, or if he's just going to retaliate without making a statement. It's going to be interesting to see, what Putin says. Is he going to do like a big fancy speech like he did before he invaded Ukraine, where he went to his, desk in Moscow and taped a whole 30-minute statement about why he was invading and all that? Is he going to do that, or is he just going to strike, without making a statement? It's hard to say. Obviously, he wants to keep the element of surprise too, so he may not even make a statement, or he may make a statement after he does this, whatever, if he nukes Ukraine. And there's a lot of prophecies about Russia nuking Ukraine. There's several different prophecies about it. So, it's not something that's just like a new thing. It's a lot of people have had visions. God showed them this nuclear war with Russia and the U.S. with Ukraine involved. So, I'll be curious to see what Putin has to say. And, it's possible he could even strike tonight or tomorrow, do something, conventional, and then see if Ukraine responds again with more deep strikes. And then if they deep strike again, maybe then he'll, unleash the full nuclear hammer of Russia or something on Ukraine, or on NATO. Even he could go after NATO. Another thing too, with those cables being cut in the Baltic Sea, I don't think people realize why that was done. I think most people's immediate reaction is that's like Russia trolling us, sort of like how we, took out the pipeline. So now they're kind of getting back at us. It's like a bad neighbor situation where, you throw a pile of garbage on your neighbor's yard, then the next day they throw a pile of garbage on yours. And most people are just kind of looking at this from a surface level. But the deeper meaning is the cables that were cut, especially the one from Lithuania to the Gotland Island. That's actually like a battlefield preparation move, because the Gotland Island is in the middle of the Baltic Sea and it's controlled by Sweden. And Russia has always wanted to take over the Gotland Island, and it's a very vulnerable island. And so Russia literally just cut the internet line that goes from mainland Europe to the Gotland Island, from Lithuania to Gotland. So now they can only communicate with radio. And in the event of a war, that would make communication almost impossible, because jamming would happen. So radio use would be very difficult. So then you have Gotland Island out there in the middle of the Baltic Sea by itself, with no way to communicate with the rest of Europe, And then same thing, Lithuania. If Russia were to invade Lithuania, now Lithuania has another one less way of communicating with the rest of Europe by cutting that cable there. And then another cable from Finland to Germany. Germany, you have, all the largest military forces in Germany, and they're doing a lot of construction in Finland. They're building a lot of bases there. So that's also a battlefield preparation move, So it's not what people think, where it's just, oh yeah, Russia's trolling us. They're messing with our cables to get revenge. It's not that. It's a battlefield preparation move. They're preparing for war. Basically, they're preparing the battlefield. It's just like, when we went into Iraq. One of the first things we did was we took out the electricity to Baghdad. We had the fighter jets and the force recon. They came in and they cut the power, stuff like that. That's one of the first things you do, and so that should be very concerning for a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like what we mentioned earlier. It's kind of like the beginning of it all. The very first step is you remove communications or you limit communications before you get ready to invade or make a strike or anything like that. And so that's definitely very alarming to see that, and we're seeing it not just in a like local regional area like we saw when right before Russia went into Ukraine, because Russia did the same thing to Ukraine, but we're seeing it throughout Europe. Okay.
Right.
And so that's very concerning. And some people speculate that, if, and we say if because we don't know, but if, Russia was to do something, that even the United Kingdom would be at risk for receiving a strike, which would be really bad. And then, there's even the possibility of, EMPs here across the U.S. When I look at the partnership between North Korea and Russia, it reminds me so much of the movie Red Dawn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You kind of get that Red Dawn feeling when you
Yep.
see cooperation between those two, especially with being North Korea, because they have a very vast human army, one of the largest on the planet, and that's just because of their dictatorship that they're under up there in those areas. So, that's kind of like in the back of my mind a little bit as well. Like, like where is this leading to in the future? Like, what's really going on? So, but yeah, a lot taking place, prophecy being unfolded as we go through this, and we knew that if Trump won, that we were going to have to go through some stuff, and we're beginning to see that now, and so we don't know where all this is going to. We don't know where the smoke's going to land and what it's going to look like when this all clears. We're hoping and we're praying for the best. But we suggest that you, as individuals at home, prepare for the worst. Pray for the best, but prepare for the worst. And so, before we get off here tonight, in your personal opinion, because you are the prepper, what are some things that people can do in their homes to, potentially prepare for, what we could be facing here over the next 2 months for sure in the short term?
Yeah, there's a number of different scenarios that could arise from this, all the way up to a full scale nuclear exchange, which is the worst case scenario. But best case scenario, there's going to be some kind of a scuffle between NATO and Russia. Where exactly, it's hard to say. It could be in the Baltics, but either way, there will be some effects, obviously. But if we're talking about like a worst case scenario, let's say things happen. I mean, as we're seeing, the escalation is continuing since the war started. We've just been gradually seeing more and more escalation. Remember when the war started, and it was like unfathomable that Ukraine would strike Russia with American missiles. It was unfathomable that Ukraine would have F-16s. Now they do.
Mm-hmm.
So all these things that, Russia said were red lines are happening, and the escalation is just going to continue because there's nobody wants to give up. Putin's not going to give up. Zelensky's not going to give up. And then what's the U.S. going to do? I mean, play a mediator role. I mean, it's never going to end. So the only way that this is going to end is with, in my opinion, mushroom clouds somewhere in Europe or the U.S. I think that's where it's going. And yeah, to prepare for the worst case scenario, let's say a nuclear exchange, you need to think about fallout, because fallout is the number one killer in a nuclear war. It's not so much the blast. And, obviously, if you're in a big city and that city gets targeted, then of course, you're going to get hit with, extreme heat. It's going to cause burns all over your body and blast waves that can crush your lungs and stuff like that. But for most Americans, that live outside of cities, the biggest threat is going to be radiation, and the radiation is going to be unavoidable. There's nowhere you can go in the US or North America where you're not going to get affected by radiation because of the winds. The winds are going to blow the fallout. It's a question of how severe the radiation is. Certain parts of the country are going to have like really bad radiation after a nuclear war. Specifically, the upper plains and the central plains are going to have really bad fallout radiation, much worse than the rest of the country. And that's because of all of our silos that we have over there. We have 450 silos, and they're actually designed as a sponge to absorb a portion of Russia's deployed warheads. So by having those silos there in Montana, Wyoming, and North Dakota, it forces Russia to strike each one of those silos with 2 warheads to ensure total destruction. So you're looking at potentially almost 1,000 warheads that are each multiple times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb being detonated in North Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. So those states and anywhere downwind from them at the time of the strike are going to have the worst radiation in the country. Most likely that would be places like, obviously, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. Those Central Plains places are going to have really bad fallout. But radiation will be the number one killer, and there's all kinds of targets around the country. It's not just the missile silos. There's all different bases scattered throughout the country that in a nuclear war, Russia would try to target those to take them out, and we would do the same to them. So that would spread radiation everywhere, basically. There's a target in every single state, So you should be familiar with what are the targets in your area. Do you live like right next to a nuclear war target? Because if you do, you should have a plan. If there is a nuclear exchange, the time that you're going to have to prepare is very little. It takes 30 minutes for a ICBM to cross from Russia to the US. So you're going to have 30 minutes if it's launched in Russia, 30 minutes if it's launched from their subs, 15 minutes. So you really are not going to have much time. And then the fallout radiation will start to land. The fallout is going to start to land from the sky, anywhere from an hour to 12 hours, depending on how close you are to the detonation. And, the wind speed has a lot to do with it, the prevailing wind speed. But, you're looking at a couple hours before the radiation gets so bad that you can basically take a fatal radiation dose by being outside in just 30 minutes. So the first 2 days after a nuclear war or nuclear exchange, whatever, the first 2 days is when you have to be sheltered in place in a suitable shelter, preferably something underground, anything underground, whether it's your basement, whether it's a storm cellar, root cellar, a metro station, even like a drainage ditch. If there's nothing else around, you may have to improvise. But the first 2 days is when the radiation will be so bad that literally you go outside for 30 minutes and you're done. The radiation will be so high. It's critical the first couple of days that you're sheltered in a proper shelter. After the first couple of days, you can go out for a little bit, maybe a couple hours here and there. I wouldn't recommend that. But really the first couple days is really really important, and you need to have a good shelter. So that's really the number one thing is a fallout shelter. It's like back in the Cold War. That's everybody. Everybody had, when they built houses in the Cold War. You may remember, or you may know about this. Um, During the Cold War, when we had civil defense, when civil defense was still around, they would send an inspector to every house that was built, and the inspector would have to sign off when they were building the house if the house was suitable to survive a nuclear attack. And one of the things they would do is they would grade the shielding material of the house and what kind of protection factors you get in the basement of the house. And it would be marked. They would mark it. They would put like a sticker or whatever inside of every house what the protection factor is of that house, so you know what kind of protection you're getting in your own home. And they would do that. They used to do that. We don't do that anymore. But these are things that the old generation, this was normal for them.
Yeah.
Fallout shelters and civil defense. That was like a normal thing that people didn't even think about it much, and now if you talk about it, people think you're nuts. Fallout, who the hell's going to prepare for that? It's just one of those things where really having the shelter is the number one thing. And then supplies are obviously important, but that shelter is the most important thing. If it does go nuclear, you need to have that shelter.
Yeah. And don't forget too, that Russia's got those subs sitting off our coast, and
Yep.
something running around in the Gulf of Mexico, and they also have a base that's not talked about, sitting right off the Florida coast, 90 miles south of the Keys. They've got
Right.
something sitting there, so this isn't like a far-fetched idea, because people, they think, well, Russia's way on the other side of the globe, we're way over here. Russia's here in our backyard, guys. If you live in Alaska, some of you can see Russia from your front yard. So it's they're here, and so don't forget those things as well. And so, but yeah, a lot going on, and I'm glad that you were able to come on tonight and just kind of do an update on what's taking place, and we're going to keep an eye on it with what's happening over there. And so, for those of you here on Daily Excellence, I know we got several that are on tonight that are from your channel, and so we're thankful that you guys joined us, that we kind of came together tonight. But those of you on Daily Excellence, you want to keep up with what's going on. Greg over here, he keeps up with all the flight patterns, with all the B-2 bombers and the nuke planes and the doomsday planes and all these things. He keeps up with that, what's going on over there. It shows you the flight patterns, what's normal, what's not normal. Goes through the nuke codes as they come in, and when they change, and all these things. And so if you want to keep up with all those things, subscribe over to NYPrepper's channel. I know that our moderators have thrown your channel up several times there in the chat room. The link is also in the descriptions box below, and it's also on our main page here on YouTube. You just have to go under featured channels, and he is there as well. So there's 3 different ways to do that. Also, please don't forget, thank you, Christine. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel here. And plus, give our video here a thumbs up tonight, so that this can go viral and people can get this information tonight, and just kind of get an idea of what's happening as we are trying to piece together what's taking place. I'm not expert. We're not experts here tonight. We're not. We don't have any three-letter agencies in our back pocket or anything like that, man. We're just a couple of guys that know how to read and can look at a screen. So that's all that we're doing. So that's pretty much what's happening. But other than that, thank you guys so much for being a part of the channel tonight. God bless you all. We will see you guys tomorrow night here on Daily Excellence for Pastor Talk at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We'll be going over some devotionals and prayer time, and Have a good time with a little family night that we do every Wednesday night. So don't forget that. And we appreciate it. And so, Greg, thank you again for being with us tonight. And we definitely look forward to having you on here in the future, as I got a feeling that we'll probably be calling you again. So, with that being said, everyone, God bless you. Have a great evening, and we will see you guys tomorrow night here on the channel at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bye, everyone.
See ya.